All right, let's talk coffee. We're going to crack the code to making a consistently great cup right at home. And here's the secret. It's not magic, it's actually science. By the end of this, you're going to have the complete blueprint. So let's get brewing. You ever have one of those mornings? You've got the same beans, you use the same coffee maker, but one day it's amazing, and the next, well, it's just kind of blah. It is a super common frustration. But you know what? That inconsistency ends today. We're going to replace all that guesswork with a clear scientific approach. So first things first, we need to change how we think about making coffee. It's not just adding hot water to grounds. It's a chemical process called extraction. Just think of it like this. The hot water is a solvent, and its whole job is to run in there and pull all the tasty, soluble flavors out of the coffee grounds and into your cup. Once you realize you can control that process, you can control the flavor. Simple as that. Okay, let's dive into the core science of this. This is the how and why we get all of that incredible flavor from a simple bean into your favorite morning mug. When you get right down to it, there are really only two ways to pull flavor out of coffee. First, you've got percolation, like a pour-over. Think of it as a continuous shower where fresh water is always washing over the grounds. Then you've got immersion, like a French press. That's more like a hot tub, where all the grounds just steep together in the water for a set amount of time. This one simple difference, how the water and coffee hang out, creates wildly different results in the cup. So, now that we know what we're trying to do, let's talk about how we're going to do it. We're moving on to the 4 key variables that you, the brewer, have total control over to dial in that perfect cup. This is your toolkit. And the most important tool in that entire kit, your grinder. I can't stress this enough. A burr grinder gives you nice, even, uniform particles, which is absolutely crucial for an even extraction. A blade grinder, on the other hand, just smashes the beans into a chaotic mess of dust and boulders. What does that get you? A cup of coffee that is somehow both bitter and sour at the same time. That's why, seriously, a quality burr grinder is the single best investment you can make for better coffee. Next up, your recipe. The Specialty Coffee Association, or SCA, gives us an awesome starting point called the golden ratio. That's 1 part coffee to 18 parts water, and you gotta measure it by weight. So let's say you have 20 grams of coffee, you'd use 360 grams of water. This isn't just some random number, it's a fantastic baseline designed to give you a balanced strength that's not too weak, not too strong, but just right. Now let's talk temperature. Think of this as your accelerator pedal. The SCA recommends water right around 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Why so specific? Well, different flavor compounds dissolve at different rates. If your water's too cold, you'll only pull out the easy-to-get sour-tasting acids. But if it's too hot, you can actually scorch the grounds and pull out a ton of bitter stuff. That 200-degree range, that's the sweet spot for a perfectly balanced extraction. And finally, the most overlooked ingredient of all, your water. It's not just H2O, right? It's full of minerals. And those minerals are what actually grab onto the flavor compounds and pull them out of the coffee. The SCA's target is about 150 parts per million, or ppm. If your water's too soft, not enough minerals, it can't grab enough flavor and your coffee tastes flat. But if it's too hard, it can taste chalky. It's a delicate but really important balance. Okay, theory's cool, but let's see how all these variables actually play out in the real world, with some of the most popular coffee makers you probably have sitting on your counter right now. This is where it all clicks. Look at percolation brewers, like the V60 or Chemex. That constant flow of fresh water washes away the oils and fine, creating a really clean cup with bright, vibrant flavors. Then you've got the French press, a classic immersion brewer. That long steep time and metal filter gives you that rich, full-body coffee we all know and love. And then there's the oddball, the AeroPress. It's kind of a hybrid. It uses a short steep plus pressure to give you this uniquely clean, smooth, and low-acidity brew. All right, this is where all that science really pays off. Let's turn you into a coffee detective. Because once you have this simple framework, you can taste any cup of coffee and know exactly what went wrong and how to fix it. And it all boils down to this one simple idea. Almost every problem you're ever going to have with your coffee comes down to one of two things. It's either under-extracted, which tastes sour, or it's over-extracted, which tastes bitter. Your goal is to navigate between those two extremes and land right in that delicious sweet spot in the middle. So let's say you take a sip and it's sour, maybe a little thin, maybe even grassy tasting. Ding, 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 you've under-extracted. See, the acids in coffee dissolve first, so a sour taste just means you didn't get enough of the sugars and other good stuff to balance it all out. And the fix, your number one move, the most powerful tool you have, is to just grind finer. That's it. It increases the surface area and lets you pull out more flavor faster. Now for the other side of the coin. Your coffee tastes bitter, maybe harsh, and it leaves your mouth feeling kind of dry. Yep, you've over-extracted. You pulled out all the good stuff, and then you kept going and started pulling out the nasty, bitter compounds that dissolve last. The fix here is just the opposite. Grind coarser. That's your main adjustment. It'll let the water flow through faster and reduce the total amount of stuff you pull out. Okay, so you've got the core science down pat and you know how to troubleshoot. Now, let's just add a couple of final pro-level details that can take a good cup of coffee and make it truly exceptional. So let me ask you, have you ever really thought about your filter? Because believe it or not, it's not just there to hold the grounds. It's an active tool that directly shapes the final taste and especially the texture of your coffee. It's one last flavor dial you can turn. Think about it. Paper filters are like little sponges for coffee oils. They absorb almost all of them. This gives you that super clean, light-bodied cup where delicate, nuanced flavors can really shine. Metal filters, like the one in a French press, let all those oils and some fine particles right through into your cup, which is what gives it that full body and rich mouthfeel. And cloth filters, they sit right in the middle, giving you a nice balance of both body and clarity. And here's a secret weapon that most people ignore: patience. When coffee is roasted, it gets filled with CO2 gas, and it needs time to escape. That's called degassing. If you brew your coffee too fresh, that escaping gas actually fights back against the water, causing a chaotic, uneven, and usually sour extraction. And as you can see, the lighter the roast, the more time it needs to rest. And that's really what this all comes down to. Making great coffee isn't about luck or some kind of magic. It's about understanding the variables and knowing exactly which levers to pull to get the result you want. You are now equipped to be the master of your own brew. So let's recap that blueprint one last time. First, use a burr grinder for consistent grind. Second, start with the SCA standards, that 1:18 ratio in 200-degree water. Third, taste your coffee. If it's sour, you need to extract more. If it's bitter, you need to extract less. And always, always, always remember, the very first thing you should change is your grind size. It's your most powerful tool. So there you have it. You have the knowledge, you have the tools. You're not just making coffee anymore, you are conducting a controlled extraction. The only question left is, what's the first variable you're going to change tomorrow morning to start dialing in your perfect cup?